most of that oil drained out. Now you should be able to see a little bit better. We've got 10mm bolts all the way around this. This is obviously your oil filter cover here. 10mm bolts to remove that. You've got 3 of them. To remove this cover, I don't think these are stock bolts. To remove this cover, you don't actually have to remove this oil filter cover, but we're going to remove it because this will obviously be replaced going back together. And I think these are generally 8mm bolts all the way down. In this case, this guy replaced them with some 10mm. A little bit of oil left in there. There's your filter there. Throwing that away, that's not going to get reused. And we'll replace that cover with the right bolt. Bolts going around that cover there. And if I was going right back together with this motor, I would say start wherever you want. Say at the oil filter, so I'd set this bolt down, that bolt down, that bolt down, that bolt down, in the order that you take them off. That way you know, but we're gonna have to throw these in a box when we go ahead and rebuild this later. We'll figure out where they go. It's not a big deal, it just saves a little bit of time if you're going right back together with it, which we're not. So next, you're going to take a rubber mallet or a plastic mallet and tap this cover loose if we can. They are being a bit of a challenge. Sometimes they have these little tabs here that you can tap on. And it doesn't take much a lot of times to break free, just like that cylinder. That gasket that is sealed up so good. The spring come loose here. And that is your cover there. So that is your cover. There is your clutch adjust. I showed you in other videos how to adjust that clutch there. So check those out. And we're going to pull this centrifugal clutch here. And your shift assembly here. Here's your clutch pack here with your discs. And takes an 1 1/16 socket. Deep well is probably preferred here, but this actually is going to work. And you can see these are dinged up. These nuts are dinged. And that's just to hold it together. I want to make sure when we go back together that we ding in those positions. That way it doesn't work those nuts free. Go ahead and remove it. It's a regular thread, so just counterclockwise to remove it. Just a larger nut and a washer there. And then pull up, and sometimes these are difficult as well. They actually make a special tool, but I've never owned that special tool. I've always been able to remove them without. So these centrifugal clutches are 2 pieces. I'm just going to remove this because it's going to keep falling. That is to the clutch there. I'm just trying to get you to that camshaft so I can show you how to finish that quick. But you're going to have to bear with me because you do have to do all this to get to that camshaft. We can actually take a hammer and just tap on the back of this lightly. It doesn't take much again. I keep saying that, and it always keeps on taking more, but this motor I don't think has ever been apart. We'll just put pressure on the other side. I like to spin this. It is more of a challenge. Maybe I'm going to need to get that tool. Don't like doing that to those cases. there's some play there, so it's coming. This is not coming like it's supposed to. Set this down so I can see a little bit easier. My goodness, this is incredible. I might end up having to get that tool. That tool just works like a flywheel puller generally does. Just runs over top of the centrifugal clutch. This is all right. We've got this centrifugal clutch pulled off on this Honda Foreman 400, and centrifugal clutch there. We've got your one-way bearing here, and what you can see that does there is it will just spin one way. So it spins freely that way. You try to turn it that way, and it turns the whole thing. So make sure that is in good condition. Your outside you need to be able to see your outside, where it's the lettering that says outside, and make sure that's in good condition. Now to finish removing this camshaft, now we've got your cam chain tensioner here, and that takes a 10 millimeter. And when we go back together, we'll want to loosen the Phillips that's in the middle. Just takes a tap there, replace that gasket there. And now there's plenty of slack on that cam chain. Now what we can do, I'm going to scoot this motor over so I can get to it a little bit better, is there is two caps here, and that the push rods sit down in. There's one there, and the other one is here. If we leave these in, which you wouldn't want to do because you will they'll fall down inside your motor. If all you're doing is your top end, no reason for those to fall down into your motor. So we'll go ahead and remove the sprocket here, and I kind of try to hold that cam chain, then wiggle too much on those chains, and then we're able just to pull that sprocket off. And if all we're doing is replacing that cam shaft, we can actually just leave this chain hooked up, set these down in there. Otherwise, we're going to have to disassemble this clutch to get to this. We've got a 12 millimeter bolt there that we're going to have to remove. And that's a holder for your cam chain or your cam shaft. So now you just take that cam shaft, work it out just like that. There's your cam shaft. Take your sprocket, we can put it back on there just to hold everything together. And that will go back just like that. Now that's your cam shaft. We're going to keep on going here. We've got your centrifugal clutch off already. Now we're going to pull your clutch pack off. This is your friction and steel plates. Here's your shift mechanism there. 10 millimeter, and this spins freely like that now, so got to hang on to it. And I loosen these all up just a little bit at a time. They are spring loaded, and the springs are fairly heavy duty, so if you don't do that, sometimes you can break a post off on your actual clutch basket, and that's not a cheap fix. So keep those bolts together, keep those springs together. Remove that bolt there, same thing. We got to ding that nut up so that it doesn't back itself off of there. And I just take and put my thumb right on a post there to keep this from spinning. Spin that right off, regular threads. Oh, that washer will come off. Now what I do is take, since we're not doing anything with this clutch pack, we can keep it together. I throw my bolt back in there to keep that together, and I take and put these back in. And then what I do is tighten these up, and you don't need to get them completely tight. Make sure they're started before you start tightening them up so that you don't cross thread those posts on that basket. So now they are snugged up. Now we're able to pull that plate off just like that, and it's all held together. And then we can pull that basket off as well. I set those back down in there.